Hi everyone, welcome to Time Will Tell Astrology. I finally have my course portal up and running, so it's going to be much easier to navigate the courses. So check it out, it's at crystal-tyme.net, and just the course page is up. The rest of the website has to be put onto that link, but right now you can go into seeing the courses and you can buy them, purchase them after the live Zoom lessons. And so you have the option to be on the live, and you will have the ability to ask questions, the Q&A afterwards, which isn't recorded, or you can just buy the recorded lesson. I want to go over the Osiris asteroid. I do believe I found the secret to Osiris and his 14 pieces because of the asteroid, and I'll get into that. But I'm also keeping a really close eye on the Trump family, mainly because of Ivana's death yesterday. And this is when we had a Sun-Osiris conjunction. And I was expecting something to happen with a death of someone that was prominent in the public eye. This just was launched at Times Square in New York, which is the new George magazine is back. And they have Trump holding a lamp, like a lantern, showing the way, like he's the light, right? So I do think this all ties into Osiris and the role of him playing Osiris. So I want to get into the conjunctions and show you the pattern of them and why the number 17 is so important. It ties to the asteroid as well as the number 14, the 14 pieces of Osiris that get spread over Egypt. And, you know, Osiris' number is number 17. And I do believe it's all tying into the pattern of the asteroid. Yesterday, Osiris conjunct the sun with Mercury and Circe, which is like, she's like the mother. She's on the painting in the Capitol building in the Apostles of Washington, Osiris. And so this is all on Pollux, which is the ascended soul between the two twins. Okay, so this happened yesterday, and this was the day that Ivana Trump passed away. Now, I went into her history. Her name is Ivana Marie Trump. Marie's important. That's Trump's mother's middle name, I believe, or Mary, right? So Mary Trump, and his father has Christ in it. So anyhow, she has Marie also in the name, and she's using the peace sign very often when she has her photos taken. So that is significant. I do believe it's the gate of Isis, which is like the peace sign in Taurus. Okay, that's the silver gate of Isis. So we have an Osiris-Isis symbolism going on here with her being the mother of Trump's children, Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. Now, Ivanka is an important role in this story, so I want to kind of keep an eye on her as well. Now, they're using this picture in most of the news outlets, and this is at the Angel Ball. Now, when she was on Oprah with Donald Trump back, I guess, in the 80s, somebody in the audience said, "Oh, you're like an angel." So there's a similar, theme going on where they're using the picture of the Angel Ball, and then somebody said on public Oprah Winfrey show that she was the angel. They're saying her death looked accidental because she was found at the bottom of the stairs in her home. She tweeted this picture out on Instagram before her death, and the caption that she wrote with the picture was an oldie but a goldie. So Ivanka is wearing gold and her mom is wearing black and white. They're also using a similar picture with Ivanka in gold and her mom in black and white in this news clip. This is about Ivana speaking about her daughter Ivanka. I think she is in the White House every day. She's next to her father every day. She knows all that is going around. I think she could be one of the first woman president, definitely. She's smart as hell. She's beautiful. So I see this as the whole Osiris-Isis story where Osiris passes away. Isis also gets killed in some mythology. I mentioned that last time when, and the sun rejuvenates her and ascends her and puts her head back on. It was Horus that killed her son. But I think there's a flip here where the woman, the divine woman, is now going to be, the leader, the new king or the new queen instead of the new king. So I think they're setting this all up so that something happens to Trump and then Ivanka ends up replacing Trump. And this was also portrayed in The Simpsons show, right? When Trump gets killed and then his daughter, or Homer gets killed, he's the president, and then his daughter or whatever gets in charge to be the first woman president. Okay, so there's a storyline going on here. This is Trump's and Ivana's wedding, and they had an interesting courtship. Now, she lived in Montreal, and she had defected basically from Czechoslovakia and had married somebody to get over here, and then she was a ski instructor. She was involved with being modeling for the Olympics, and she went down to New York for promotion for the Olympic attire clothing outfits, and then he met her there. And he was coming back and forth to Montreal in courtship with her. I don't know where she lived in Montreal. I was trying to find out, and if anybody can find out, please let me know. So here they're saying here, yes, she was in Vienna, had gone to learn English to take up fashion modeling. My wife was #1 model in Montreal for 8 years, Mr. Trump said. 3 years ago, after our 9-month courtship, with her commuting between New York and Montreal, the couple were married by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, and they moved into Mr. Trump's bachelor apartment in the Olympic Tower. So it's all very significant, right? The Olympics, which are the gods, his tower. Now, the priest is relevant to the church that they were married in and what he represented. So I'll get into that as well. But they had a 9-month courtship, and then 9 months after their marriage, she had her first child. And that would be Don Jr. So Osiris, Horus, right? The father and the son, the same being. So Don being named after Donald Trump. But I do think they're going to swap it to the divine feminine with Ivanka. The fact that she's connected to Montreal is really significant. Really about history of Montreal. And I will get into that in another video. There's also another significance of their religious kind of connotations. They were married on Easter Sunday, okay, which is the resurrection again. And here is where the placements were with Osiris, was right on the manger of Jesus on their marriage day. And Saturn was there as well, the keeper of time. Capricorn, so Capricorn and Cancer are the cardinal cross feminine axis. So Cancer is the main water symbol, and it is really about your mother and your mother's milk and your breasts, right? It rules the breasts, and it rules the connection to your ancestral bloodline, right? So this is a very divine feminine, and the fact that they got married on Easter Sunday with this placement with Osiris is very relevant. This is the church they got married in, the Marble Collegiate Church in New York, and it has like the clocks all around the tower, which is also really significant. And I do believe Jackie Kennedy was, her funeral was there. Norman Vincent Peale, the noted author of The Power of Positive Thinking, which is really important. That's, I guess, why Trump, used him as the priest. Served as a senior minister from 1932 to 1984. Under Peale's ministry, Marple's influence reached national levels, and it became known as America's hometown church. Lucille Ball was married there, and I think Trump got married there with his second wife. So Peale was the reason why Trump family came to attend Marple Collegiate Church. Peale was the official of the first marriage of Donald to Ivana Trump in 1977, and in 1990, Marble's minister Arthur Calandro performed Trump's marriage to Marla Maples in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. Okay, so she didn't get married in this church, but they used a minister from the church. So anything with a tower and clocks in it represents the tower card, which is pi, infinity, And this is why Trump wore the infinity hand from the Thanos Avenger movies. So this church was the director of the New Netherland. New York is called Netherland, right? That was the original name, like Netherland. Neverland, Netherland. So that was in 1628. This church is special because it has a labyrinth. They're saying here the labyrinth is a walking aid to meditation found in various forms in many cultural and religious traditions. Yeah, this is why I built one, is because it balances your brain to theta, which is therefore you can connect to higher consciousness and be more enlightened. So, this church has that in there. So this church obviously is, about seeing the illusion and being able to get yourself to Neverland. And it's all to do with time, right? Because Capricorn is the keeper of time. He's the god of the golden age. So he rules time. He's all about time and being very responsible. Okay? But once you can see through the illusion, you can escape the matrix by understanding it's all a duality and that you have to learn to see through the veil and get to the other side of your consciousness so that you don't get emotionally trapped into all the trauma that they're shooting at us left, right, and center. And the rubedo is the marriage of the red and white. It's the highest form of alchemy. And this picture was taken way back when their children were young, but it's interesting that they're dressed in red and white. And at this point, you could just say it's all a coincidence, right? But if you really follow Trump and understand the symbolism that he's been using, you realize nothing's a coincidence. This picture just blows me away every time I see it. I'm just like, oh my God, they're like, it's a crystal ball. They're predicting the future or making the future. So it's pretty funny. So was that supposed to be the crystal ball, supposed to be the full moon? But here, when they did this picture, Osiris was conjunct with the moon. It wasn't full, it wasn't a blood moon, but it was conjunct with the moon on the tail of the whale. And that's where Osiris is going to conjunct the sun on Pi Day when there's a blood moon on March 14th, 2025. This picture is also epic, right? So Trump's just sitting there and they're all standing around him. And Merkel is like hovered over him and Trump's just like, yeah, nothing's bothering me. So here, this was on June 9th in Quebec City. And this is relevant again that it's up in Quebec and Canada. And I'll get to the importance of all that later on. But it's not a coincidence that they were in Quebec City. Now for the G7. So this was in 2018 on June 9th. So June 9th, 2018, Osiris was conjunct the sun, just like yesterday on July 14th, with Mercury in between the horns. Okay, now this is really significant that it was between the horns because Isis always wears, the symbolism in Egyptian mythology with Isis is she has horns on her head with the solar disk between the horns. So this is really relevant that it's happening in the Silver Gate of Isis. Now, Osiris Asteroid has a return loop every 17 years on average. Sometimes it's 18, but most of the time it's 17 years. And he conjuncts the sun every in that 17 years 14 times. So this is why I believe the mythology of the 14 pieces of his body scattered over Egypt is so relevant because of these 14 conjunctions. So it has to be that they're mapping everything to this asteroid. Okay, and I'll go into more detail of why I believe that, but it's getting more and more obvious that this is really a worshiping to Osiris because he is the born again king, right? He resurrects, and he is the keeper of the duat for souls to be weighed to see if you can, escape this realm or retain your memory to come back into this realm, right? It's like if you're really a good person and your heart is lighter than a feather, you get to have your memory to be able to come back into this realm. It's like you get to go to the golden age, which is basically retaining your memory of this game. This is what this is all about. So they're saying here, it is not a coincidence that Osiris raises from the dead on the 17th day of the month of Hathor in Egyptian mythology. Now, the month of Hathor is the same as Hathor. It has the same meaning. They just spell it a different way just to confuse us. So the 17th day, we get the number 17. So that's why a lot of people believe that Osiris's number is 17, because he raises from the dead on the 17th day. But he also has a 17-year orbit that returns to Aquarius. It always goes back to Aquarius every 17 to 18 years, but on the average, it's always 17 years. And what's so fascinating, the 17th card in the tarot deck is the star card, which is ruled by Aquarius. Like, what's the chance of that happening? His last return to Aquarius was February 20th. I thought it was Biden's inauguration, but it's not. It's February 20th, 2021. So, yeah, so it went back to Aquarius, and now it's going to go through 14 conjunctions with the sun over the next 17 years. But the next, the one that happened yesterday, July 14th, then there's another one in November 2023 on actually the anniversary of JFK's death, okay? And then there's another one on Pi Day, okay? So we're really getting into some really intense Osiris-Sun conjunctions in the next few conjunctions that it does. Now, the reason this one is so important, July 14th, was because it was Bastille Day. Now, Bastille Day is a holiday celebrating the Bastille Revolution, which basically started the French Revolution. It's also International Nude Day, and then Pandemonium Day. Okay, so, and Victims of Nice, France Attack Day. So they did the attack in France at Nice, was on July 14th. So they put trauma into this date. And the reason, is because Bastille Day is all about freedom fighters. Okay, so let's get into that, a little bit of history of Bastille Day in France. The French National Day is an anniversary of storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, a major event of the French Revolution, as well as the Fête de Fédération, the celebration of unity of the French people on July 14, 1790. Celebrations are held throughout France. One that has been reported as the oldest and largest military parade in Europe is held on July 14th. Okay, so it's all about fighting for your freedom. They rebelled against the authority. They rebelled against the government. The storming of the Bastille was an event that occurred in Paris, France, on the afternoon of July 14th, 1789, when revolutionaries stormed and seized control of the medieval armory, fortress, and political prison known as Bastille. So it was a prison. They had, people that, would be, I guess, considered terrorists for going against the government were held there. At the time, the Bastille represented royal authority in the center of Paris. The prison contained only 7 inmates at the time of the storming. 7, very sacred number, but was seen by the revolutionaries as a symbol of monarchy, abuse, and power. Its fall was the flashpoint of the French Revolution. In 1790, Lafayette gave the wrought iron 1 pound, 3 ounce key to the Bastille to U.S. President George Washington. Washington displayed it prominently at the government facility and events in New York and Philadelphia, until shortly before his retirement in 1797. The key remains on display at the Washington residence of Mount Vernon. So the whole rebellion of the French Revolution is tied to the United States. See these Frisian caps that they're wearing? These are also on the painting of the Apostles of Washington in the Capitol building. Okay, so it's all to do with, standing up to governments that are corrupt, right? And this is what George Washington, the original founding fathers, and George Washington, this is what they believed was going to be the future of the American citizens, that were going to have to stand up to their governments. And they put into the Constitution that they had the legal right to do that, because eventually they will be called upon to do this. Okay? But it has to be done with no violence, and it has to be done in unity, that both parties unite. Okay, which is, oh my God, they're trying to keep everybody divided so intensely. This is going to be a miracle if the American citizens unite to fight their own government. And there's the obelisk. It's in the center where the Bastille prison once was. So they have one column there now. This is the column. They have a merry-go-round beside it, which means you're stuck on the karmic wheel and you're not getting off, or you're going to represent this column and you've got your wings. You're the golden boy with the wings, right? Or the golden angel. So here they're showing how the Bastille column it's called the July column, I believe. Yeah, so they've created this as a celebration of liberty in the square. And they also use this as a monument in the novel Les Miserables, which are basically patriots fighting for freedom. Yeah, it's called the July column. The other holiday on July 14th is the Pandemonium Day. The word pandemonium, interesting, the word pan, first appeared in the 17th century in the author John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost, which retells the biblical story of Adam and Eve and their temptation by Satan. It's a hybrid of the Greek word pan, which means all, and the Latin word demonium, which means demon. In Paradise Lost, Pandemonium is the capital of hell, where all the demons live. Okay, so this is, it's just interesting. July 14th is also that day. So, they're trying to demonize this day of liberty. On the founding of the United States, on July 4th, 1776, they had Osiris was conjunct with Spica, which is the main star that is in the Washington Triangle that aligns to the Washington Monument. So that's really relevant. And Neptune was on Zavijava, which is like Christ consciousness. He's like the shaman in the sky. So yeah, so that's really fascinating as well. So what's interesting about the founding of the United States was it all kind of, the rebellion against the British happened on March 5th, 1770. It was the Boston Massacre, right? If you know your American history, and the Boston Tea Party that followed. So they used this date. They celebrated the independence of the United States on March 5th from 1771 until 1783. So that is about 13 years from when the massacre happened. So for 13 years, they celebrated it on March 5th, and then they decided to change it over to July 4th. Now, what's fascinating, that on 1771, we had an Osiris-Sun conjunction in the exactly same place as it was July 14th, yesterday. Okay, it was in Gemini on Pollux again. The next Osiris-Sun conjunction is happening on the 60th anniversary of JFK's assassination in 2023. And this timeline makes me think that this would reoccur, that Osiris gets taken out, right? The king and then he would be replaced. And the way I'm seeing it kind of going is that Trump represents Osiris, and he will be replaced with his daughter this time. If you go and watch Trump's rallies recently, and he's always putting Ivanka in that kind of presidential format, the way he's presenting her. Okay, and then with Ivana saying that she would be a great president as well, it's making me seem to think that this is how it's going to be playing out. So this Osiris-Sun conjunction is happening right on the cusp of going into Scorpio. This is in sidereal astrology, and this is known as the kiss of death. Scorpio represents the house of death, right? So that's, you know, really quite intense that it's on the 60th anniversary of JFK. Now, are they going to do something exactly on that day? Maybe, I don't know. But it's just, it's an intense time because it's right after the election in 2023. Then, of course, the famous one where we have, you can't even see Osiris there, but he's so conjunct with the sun. He's like literally conjunct. Like the one before, you know, it is a conjunction. If you take a slice of the wheel, you know, you get a conjunction. But this one is literally on the ecliptic, okay, with the sun. And it's on the tail of the whale, which is that pentagon-shaped fish, on the right fish of Pisces, represents the circlet of Pisces. And I do believe that is like sacred. It is one of the sacred spots in the sky with the cardinal points coming from the azimuthal grid. And Neptune's there as well, and so is Saturn. So all the players are there with a blood moon happening at the same time at 322 on Zavijava, the star that the speed of light was discovered on, and it's on Einstein's birthday, okay, Pi Day. So it's like, whoa, this Pi Day is insane. But I do think it has a lot to do with the Osiris-Sun conjunction. That's why it's so important. And you guys know this is all about Lincoln. I've done videos on Lincoln and what the meaning of Lincoln is. In Welsh, it meant the pond. Okay, so that's why we have the reflecting pond beside the obelisk at Washington. And Lincoln, you know, represents freedom in some ways, but he's also, to me, he's the nectar, right? He is like the pond is the nectar, that it's like the fountain of youth. So Matthew McConaughey has done this commercial, right? And Ellen was kind of making fun of the commercial because she says it doesn't make any sense. But he's in the Lincoln car. He comes across a bull in his path, and he says, "I think that's Osiris." Now, you have to remember that Trump is born between the horns of Taurus the bull, the silver gate of Isis. Okay, so that's why I think it's all tying into his first wife, right? It's all what's happening right now. So here in this commercial, you know, he says, okay, so you want me to take the long way around. And he's playing with his fingers. He's playing with the third finger, and he's rubbing it, and that's Saturn. That's Saturn's finger on your hand, okay? And then he goes, I think I'll take the long way. And he goes, thank you, Osiris, and he turns around. So instead of Osiris letting him pass through, he has to go the long way around and keep on the loop, basically the karmic wheel. He doesn't get off the loop. He's in his Lincoln car, which he's, you know, giving himself to the nectar of the gods, right, of the fountain of youth. You're giving yourself to them. So you're stuck in the loop. So he didn't get past the bull. Okay? The goal is to get past the bull and go through the duat and come out through the bullseye, which is Aldebaran. It goes from the duat from Sirius star up to Aldebaran to the Pleiades. Okay, so you want to get to the middle of the labyrinth so that you can basically confront the bull and kill the bull and become free. Or the bull dies because he's, you know, has to resurrect, right? So it's this whole storyline keeps repeating itself everywhere. And which woman wears the red wool string around her wrist to get out of the labyrinth and kill the bull, help kill the bull, with her hero going in and killing the bull, is Ariadne. And see how Ivanka has the red string. She just took this 5 days ago when she was in Morocco. This was on January 5th, 2021, when she was talking. Well, Trump asked her to come up and talk, and she's, talks like a presidential candidate for sure. And this was the day before the Capitol, riot. This is a picture, I don't know when she posted it, but she says, this time last year I was in Doha, Qatar. Now, the whole reason I put this in was because the soccer, football tournament, I think it's next year, is in Qatar, and they're using the Vagina Stadium. And you can go research that, the Vagina Stadium. It's basically divine feminine. So she's there representing the divine feminine with the world and the stars and fossils, and it's all the history of the world, and it's just, that's what this is all about, is remembering who you are. That's why it has to be feminine. The feminine is about memory. Cancer on the cardinal cross on the feminine axis is about remembering. Okay, the moon is remembering and healing your past lives, your emotions. It's connecting back to Earth, Mother Gaia, the divine feminine. Here she is in November 12th, 2020, speaking, and it's all about American Heritage Month and remembering the native cultures, the Aboriginals, and this is where we have to really go back with our memory. We got to remember how they were living and how they were healing themselves and what they were doing with the ley lines and all the shamanic healings. This is where it has to go back to. We have to go back and remember the true cultures that were able to self-heal, right? And respect their communities. Here she is in front of the White House, and she's posted Lighthouse. Okay, so I do see her as, at the White House. The best part is Ivanka even has a little white dog, and she made this post called The Dog Days of Summer. Well, this is all tying to the Sirius star, right? And Sirius is a dog in the sky. But also the white dog is on the Fool card, which is to do with freedom. So the symbolism is everywhere. She's called this dog Winter, and it's because of the winter hexagon in the sky. And I'll get into another video explaining all that and how that all ties into it all. But it's getting fun. And there she is with the Washington Monument, because that's what this is all about. You either get off the tower, or you free yourself, or you become the Lincoln, the pond. Okay, this is really what it is. It's all about your ability to be connected to the roots of the tree, not the branches. And in Sigillaria, that's what the Sigillaria tree looked like. It was exactly like an obelisk. Okay, so that was the very first tree on this planet, and that's why it's called a sigil, and that's why the whole bringer of light on December 23rd is known as Sigillaria Day. Okay, it's all representing the obelisk, which is basically a candle. It looks the same as a candle. A candle is tapered like that the same way because it is the light. Okay, so it's getting crazy out there, guys. So, I really appreciate you guys keeping your eyes peeled and sharing stuff with me. I really admire that you guys can start to see things. Like, it's coming at me like crazy. There's so much information that I need to put together, but I'm putting together the stuff that I feel is relevant, as it's popping out, as things are happening. So don't forget about checking out my online school, and booking a reading if you're interested in finding out your life lesson and your whole life path. I appreciate you guys supporting me, because this stuff takes a lot of time to put together, and I am doing it because I enjoy doing it, and I find that it is helping people. But at the same time, I appreciate all your support as well. So take care. Bliss to you. Bye.